A YouTuber named Nick Shirley went to Minnesota and did something extremely radical.
Ask where the money's going.
Was paid $1.26 million.
Instead of focusing on fraud that every American, no matter which side of the aisle you're on, should be pissed about, the media immediately pivots to Nick Shirley.
So we can make our own analysis. Are you 100% sure you're true?
Yeah, I am 100% sure I'm true.
That was conservative YouTuber Nick Shirley. His viral video where he's going door to door at daycares in the Minneapolis area and saying that
you could probably blame for all this because he's the man at the top in Minnesota. This is where it gets truly absurd, as usual with Timmy. Let's hear from him about the fraud. This is his response. Roll it.
This is what happens when your own federal government wages war against you. This is what happens when they target communities for their own benefit. This is what happens when they scapegoat.
Watch this video and make sure you let it play long enough for the line, "I know the fraud is bad."
Here is cut. I'm unable to work or go to school. I understand. Fraud is bad.
Whoa. Here I come. Oh, here I come.
Welcome to Stay in the Fray podcast. I'm your host, Ryan. This is where headlines get hit hard, hypocrisy gets shredded, and the absurd are laughed at. If you want comfort, this isn't your place. If you want blunt and unfiltered, I'm your guy. Join me in the fray.
All you gotta do is just listen up.
Hey guys, I suppose this Minnesota fraud, the entire state's gone in cuckoo, but this fraud that's being uncovered needs to be discussed on Stay in the Fray podcast. So everyone needs to take a breath with me for a second, because what's happening in Minnesota right now is one of the clearest examples of how completely broken our priorities have become in this country because of the division. We have massive fraud. We have taxpayer money stolen. We've got clear evidence being shown on camera. And instead of asking, who did this? Where'd the money go? How do we stop it? The media, politicians, and activists all ask the same question. Who can we blame for pointing it out? That's where we're at. It is unreal. Let me give some perspective on all this. It'll be very quick. Come join me. This is Stay in the Fray podcast. It is January the 8th, 2026. Let's roll. Let's start with what actually happened. A YouTuber named Nick Shirley went to Minnesota and did something extremely radical. He asked questions. See for yourself. Roll this, boys.
This Quality Learning Center. I meant to say Quality Learning Center.
Don't open
They
up!
said they spelt learning wrong. Have you ever seen children at that daycare center right there?
Where?
Yeah, it's right there. It says the child. You've never seen daycare.
I don't see anybody in there.
Children here in your child care?
Which child care name is a lot of
Minnesota Child Care right here. It's from the state of Minnesota's website. We're just wondering where the children are.
Where the children are?
Yeah, where are the children? It says you have 102 children here, and you got $2.66 million this year in funding.
Ask where the money's going. I would like to check a child in the daycare.
Why?
Can I speak to a manager? Where can I get paperwork to file for my son? I wanted to put my son Joey in daycare.
And after a few questions, the lady went silent.
Looks like little Joey Shirley ain't going to daycare here. We're in the middle of a strip mall here inside of this neighborhood.
In fiscal year 2025, this facility, which says it's licensed for 74 kids, was paid $1.26 million in tax money. And there are no kids, and all the facilities are the same way, all of them.
Let's see if anyone opens.
Yeah, let's see.
Once again, I try to find a spot for my son Joey, and they would not open the door.
I want to put my son Joey in daycare. Cuz I need a spot to put my son Joey.
Yes.
Is this your daycare center?
No, I work there. What's happened?
I just want to put a child in daycare, but all the daycare centers seem to be closed. No one's opening the doors.
You work here?
I was, yeah. What's happened?
Where are the kids?
Yeah?
It says it's licensed for 74 children. Right here, state of Minnesota. Where are the kids? They got paid $1.26 million in fiscal year 2025. It says they have a capacity for 74 children.
When?
Where are the kids? Right here. State of Minnesota website.
Yeah, I would like to see if I can put my son Joey here.
Who's your son, Joey?
My son Joey. Can I check out daycare center?
What are you doing, my son? No!
You get the point. I mean, there's a lot of this, but I just a nice compilation of it there for you. That's it. He went to these so-called learning centers, nonprofit facilities, many tied to Somali communities, and asked basic, reasonable questions. Who are the students? Where are they? Where are the teachers? How can I enroll my young boy Joey? How is the money being used? All this that's being allotted to you every year. Instead of answers, he got hostility. Door slammed, phones pulled out. As I was saying, they keep saying, why do you want to put your son? Well, you're a daycare center. The staff refused to explain anything. Even that guy that claimed he worked there once, it just obviously frozen. Here's the thing. If this was legit, if these places were clean, Nick would have been laughed out of the building. They would have said, here's the paperwork. Here are all the kids. Here's the curriculum we use. Here's the funding. Instead, panic. They froze. They screamed back. Do you really need more? Do at least think about it. Let's talk scale. This is not small. Minnesota has a long history of nonprofit education-related fraud, much of it tied to Somali-run organizations. We're talking dozens of organizations, hundreds of individuals, hundreds of millions of dollars, and likely over $1 billion when you add it all up historically. The Feeding Our Future case alone was over $250 million. So no, this isn't new. This isn't isolated. This is a pattern. And Nick didn't create it. He's exposing it because nobody else is making it a priority. Now watch how fast the conversation shifts. Instead of focusing on fraud that every American, no matter which side of the aisle you're on, should be pissed about, the media immediately pivots to Nick Shirley. And of course, CNN, front and center, ready to blame the wrong person again. Roll this clip, boys.
How do you know that you're right? How do you know that all the allegations that you're making are true?
How do I know that they're true? Well, we showed you guys what was happening, and then you guys can go ahead and make your own analysis.
We're coming so we can make our own analysis. Are you 100% sure you're true?
Yeah, I am 100% sure I'm true.
That was conservative YouTuber Nick Shirley. His viral video where he's going door to door at daycares in the Minneapolis area and saying that he's uncovering massive amounts of fraud at Somali-run daycares has exploded on social media. Elon Musk retweeted the video. J.D. Vance retweeted the video. CNN is looking into Shirley's claims. This idea of fraud in Minnesota, though, is not new. In fact, for many, many years, the Department of Justice has been prosecuting cases against dozens of defendants, many of whom are concentrated in the Somali American community here in the Minneapolis area. Some of those cases actually began under Biden's DOJ in 2022 for a various list of different types of frauds. And so far, there have been at least 80 people indicted, at least 56 convictions.
All right, Whitney. So CNN brings Whitney Wild, who presses him with, well, how do you know you're right? Well, because it's on camera, because they won't answer questions, because the numbers don't add up. And then here it comes. At the very beginning, she referred to him as a conservative YouTuber. Conservative. Why? What does political leaning have to do with fraud? Since when is stealing taxpayer money by the hundreds of millions a partisan issue? Only conservatives care about corruption? Liberals should care too. And I don't know why they don't. Then CNN, Whitney pulled off one of the biggest self-owns I've ever seen. The idea of fraud isn't new in Minnesota. The DOJ has prosecuted dozens of cases, many tied to Somali communities. She got that in there. Well, which is it, Whitney? Why are you doubting Nick if you're literally there saying we know it exists? Why are you smearing him? Why hasn't the fraud stopped? You can't say it's real, proven, and ongoing, and then attack the guy who's showing it, unless the exposure itself is the real problem for you. Oh man, let's get to Tim Walz, who you could probably blame for all this because he's the man at the top in Minnesota. This is where it gets truly absurd, as usual with Timmy. Let's hear from him about the fraud. This is his response. Roll it.
So This is what happens when your own federal government wages war against you. This is what happens when they target communities for their own benefit. This is what happens when they scapegoat. And this is what happens when they no longer hide the idea of white supremacy when you hear the Vice President of the United States talk about now white people won't have to apologize for being white. That's never happened once in my whole damn life. And I think everybody in this room knows what they're doing. So we're here today to say enough of this. We're here today to stand that Minnesota will protect their neighbors.
I should just do a reel of my reactions after these videos because it has to be pretty funny. I don't even know what to say, but I'll try. Tim says, this is what happens when the federal government targets you. No, this is what happens when fraud is uncovered. Then he goes straight to that race card, white supremacy. I'm sorry, what? Demanding accountability for stolen money is not racist. Fraud does not become protected because of identity. And then, that might have been the dumbest thing I've heard in a long time. He somehow connects his white supremacy claim to Vice President J.D. Vance stating that white people should not apologize for being white anymore. How is that racist? White people should never apologize for being white. If anything, telling people they should apologize for their race is what's racist. And how in God's name does that relate to money being stolen in Minnesota? He said this is a part of his response to the fraud. It goes beyond, so far beyond deflection. Let's move on. There's more. The incoherent babbling from Tampon Tim is just nonstop. So here's another one. Roll this one, guys.
A lot of white men should be holding a lot of white men accountable for the crimes that they have committed, which, of course, the majority being committed by white men, asking us to do more about that. I think it's crime in general. We continue to educate folks about why they shouldn't commit crimes. You would hope that it's being taught both at home and at schools and in our society. But no, I think this idea that the Somali community is to blame for this because they didn't do more, I think that's how we got into this. And that's, again, I know we're not going to lose the whole plot here. All this work that's being done, Donald Trump brought this to the attention like this is something brand new. This is not brand new, and it's been being worked on, but he made it white hot and very dangerous.
It's all over the place. Fray, he's got to get Trump in there somehow, and then we knew it was there, but Trump said it was there. And you heard it, right? White men should be holding white men accountable for other fraud that's likely happening. Okay, anybody should be held accountable for committing fraud. But why is this racial? A white man demand accountability from anyone. A Mexican man or woman can demand accountability from anyone. An Asian, a black man, anybody can demand accountability from anyone. Justice doesn't come in skin tone. And when he says blaming the Somali community is how we got here, no, Tim, fraud is how we got here. And a lot of it was carried out within the Somali community. And if it wasn't new, as they keep admitting, then why hasn't it been fixed? Why did Trump have to spotlight it? Why did Nick Shirley have to do it? Which brings us to the timing. Breaking news. Tim Walz is not seeking another term as governor. Coincidence? Maybe. But if this wasn't a complete and total clusterfuck, I don't think anybody would be heading for the exit. All right, we need to talk about something everyone keeps dodging. Victims. Because every time this story comes up, we're told the real victims are the Somali communities. Stop it. Who are the actual victims here? Well, how about the taxpayers, for one? Working families, people who followed the rules, people who didn't steal. I'm so tired of this country feeling as though we must walk on eggshells for these people, or any others who fled a country and now expect to turn the U.S. into that very place they fled. So now I have to ask the obvious question in regards to the Somali community. Where is Ilhan Omar in all of this? All she ever does is rush to defend the Somali communities, claim victimhood, and shut down the criticism. But when fraud is uncovered, when money's stolen, evidence shown within these communities, by the way, suddenly accountability disappears. Omar is nowhere to be seen. Just for funsies, as if we needed any more proof, Watch this video and make sure you let it play long enough for the line, "I know the fraud is bad." Here we go. Roll it, boys.
Care is cut. I'm unable to work or go to school. I understand. Fraud is bad.
Whoop. Here I come. Oh, here I come.
I love that they're still supporting her. Like, no, it's fine. But there it is. That wasn't Nick Shirley. That wasn't CNN. That wasn't some far-right YouTuber. That was a Somali resident standing at a podium with a massive fuck-up for her community. She accidentally admits that fraud is happening out there, even if she says it's bad. Out loud to reporters for all to see. So now that we've established reality, here's where I'm going to be very clear. Yes, legitimate Somali families exist. Many of them are peaceful, just trying to have a nice life. Yes, some people are not directly involved, but at some level, people know this is going on. You don't get fraud on this scale without community awareness. You don't get repeated schemes without silence. And silence isn't neutral. In my book, that matters. Now we'll talk, as we wrap up, about an issue nobody ever wants to say out loud. Assimilation. If you come to America, you don't get to reject our system, especially while exploiting it. Assimilation doesn't mean losing your culture. It means respecting the laws, the norms, and the people footing the bill. Accountability is a part of assimilation. Can you imagine a small white, black, Asian community moving into a Middle Eastern country like Somalia, refusing to assimilate, and running massive fraud schemes? I'm not sure that would last so long. America is too nice, and that kindness is being abused. And I say, no more. The fatigue is real, and I know where some of you are headed right now. This is not about race. This isn't about hate. This is about the bare minimum expectation. Don't steal from the people who took you in. All right, let's bring it home. This episode was not an attack on people. It was an attack on fraud. Simply put the race cards back in your pockets. And you know what? Leave them there. That would be a great start. The fact that so many politicians, media figures, and activists rushed to defend the fraud instead of the victims tell you everything you need to know right now. They didn't ask where the money went. They didn't ask who benefited. They didn't ask why it keeps happening. They asked who could be blamed for pointing it out. That is ass backwards. If you steal taxpayer money, you should be held accountable. Don't care who you are. I don't care what you look like. I don't care where you're from. And if you come to this country, a country that opened its doors, the bare minimum expectation is that you do not exploit it. Once again, assimilation includes accountability, period. Shielding fraud behind race is disgusting. Attacking whistleblowers is disgusting. And pretending this is about targeting somebody or a group instead of theft is insulting to everyone who plays by the rules. If that makes people uncomfortable, good, it should. Because discomfort is a lot better than letting corruption rot from the inside. Thanks for hanging with me on this one. I just feel like as soon as I've seen everything from the lefty movement that's going on, something even crazier pops up. To me, on this show, it's not even about the events anymore, although I'll try and give them to you as much as you need. It's about the reactions to those events. It's so baffling to me. So like, subscribe, hit the bell, all the stuff, pass it on. I know there's a lot of you out there like-minded to me, and every little thing helps. But most important to me, your thoughts. I'd love to hear them. Don't be shy. Drop a comment below on any of the platform pages, and we can keep rolling into 2026. So stay skeptical, stay honest, stay accountable, stay in the fray. Love you guys.
All you gotta do is just listen up.